Welcome to Reuters Next. My name is Karen Stroika and I'm the Chief Correspondent for Emerging Markets for Reuters. I'm today joined by Vera de Sousa, Minister of Finance for Angola. Minister, thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Karen. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, I want to start off with, there's a big day for Angola and the IMF. The board of the IMF is considering your fourth review today. Do you expect the board to approve the review?
I'm with my finger crossed. we have been working very hard for this, and we are keen to see a good result as the reflect of all the hard work that we are putting in place. So yes, hopefully we will see good results after the board meeting.
Do you have a sense of how big the next tranche could be that the IMF would be releasing to you and when you might be seeing that?
Yes. Hopefully in a couple of days after the decision, and we are expecting more than $700 million, to cash in the treasury. So let's wait and see till the figure is with us.
One of the big topics of discussion with the IMF has been China, who is your biggest creditor. And you have three big creditors in China. Can you share a little bit more of how far is this a done deal? Have you done all the debt restructuring that you needed to do with China? And have you communicated the details to the IMF?
Yes, we are under a program with the IMF. We need to be transparent during the process. As we were progressing, we were sharing with the staff and the mission chief all the progress on this negotiation. So yes, it's done. Hopefully, we will see the results of all this effort and flexibility our creditors with this negotiation in the next 3 years, and have breathing space to prepare ourselves when this period ends. We need to be ready to restart paying the service that was postponed.
Could you briefly summarize what the terms are that you got from your Chinese lenders under the debt?
We've got 3 years. We've got 3 years of breathing space, and we will take the best advantage of it.
And that is for all three, for ICBC as well as China Exim and China Development Bank, I understand.
We've got breathing space from the creditors, and we are very grateful of it.
Wonderful. Can I ask you, are you ever thinking of maybe increasing your borrowing from China again? Will China be a lender for you in the future?
What we are building in our economic reform program is a framework where we prioritize foreign direct investment. So we want, yes, to do more with not only with China, but with all our partners, but to see some money coming in and stay, to create value, to create jobs, and to add value to the economy. So yes, borrowing is good, but what we are intending to do is to shift a little bit the way we build our relationship with our partners.
And of course, the other big topic for Angola is oil, and your oil production has been dropping quite a bit in recent months and years. Currently, it's just over 1.2 million barrels a day. Do you think you can hold and stabilize oil production at the current levels?
Well, I'm not really a specialist on the oil sector, but what I'm following because of our public finance, and I need to be aware what is happening on that sector because of the weight that we still having coming from it, is that the local companies and the public entities that are committed to make sure that the sector keep growing, at least at a more robust way than they are doing till now. They are intending to make big investments to make sure that they can compensate the decrease of the investments that have some decades. And now we are talking about marginal fields and little room to have more production coming from it. So we have short period of time to make sure that the investments are put in place to make and to ensure that we can compensate that decrease and even better, with luck, to increase the production compared to the performance of the sector right now. It's a lot of things to do. That's a lot of money involved. The oil companies are struggling themselves with the effects of the pandemic, so are not easy. It's not easy to mobilize money to invest at this stage, but we are in touch with them, and the Minister of National Mineral Resources and Petroleum are very close to the companies to make sure that motivate them to that investments to happen.
You mentioned the local companies that will increase their efforts, but are you aware of, on an investment side, are you also talking to IOCs, to international oil companies? Are you talking to other national oil companies? Where do you think the money is going to come from?
Mainly international, because as you know, locally we have some issues to manage. We still having some liquidity issues to manage. So for sure, they will come from international companies, the big ones that are already operating in Angola.
The other topic I wanted to ask you about is the DSSI, the debt relief that is coming from the G20 that has just been extended until June. Now, there has been quite a bit of criticism of extending it like in 6-month chunks might make it quite difficult for the recipients of that relief to actually do some proper longer term or medium term planning even. How do you see that? Is those six month extensions that you were also granted, is that giving you a long enough horizon to plan ahead?
I think that we need to put ourselves on the skin of the borrowers also. And the lenders and the borrowers should, the lenders should and borrowers should understand themselves. So the creditors also expect to have their money back, and the borrowers are struggling with this liquidity short-term fall. So what we need to find is a point of equilibrium in between the breathing space that the borrowers needs to have to make sure that we can survive this process and the consequences of the pandemic, but also understand that the creditors are also managing their own needs and difficulties. So 6 months, I think it was the exercise possible to achieve. Of course, we need to do more. The country themselves need to do their own homework regarding to look at the debt stock and to see how to optimize it, how to reprofile it, but also attract fresh capital to make sure that the countries can grow. And internationally, the international organizations and the countries, when they are sitting together, need to see what kind of more broadened approach we can pursue to make sure that we manage this pressure on that stock.
There has been a lively debate over private sector involvement, especially going forward. What are you planning for private sector involvement?
We are, as I mentioned, we are consistently saying that we want to see the Angolan economy growing, driven by the private sector. It's not an easy task because we are coming from a model where the oil sector is the main driver, but also the public expenditure. But to keep this model, we should keep living with the consequences of it, and we don't want to. So we are pushing hard to improve our business environment, to stabilize our macroeconomic indicators, to show confidence to the investors that we are fighting against corruption, that we are improving government rules in the SOEs and the companies as a whole, just to create or to give the right incentives to see that happen. The private sector really contributing for the growth, because now, yes, we see some things happening on the agriculture and also in some industry, but we need quite more to make sure that we can tackle the poverty and create enough jobs to accommodate our youth.
Do you think the Eurobond creditors, do you think on the private sector side, on your creditor side, those who hold your Eurobonds, do they need to be involved in any sort of debt relief?
We do not intend to. We do not intend to. We are doing everything at our hands to make sure that they can continue sleeping peacefully, and we will keep working on that hard. So yes, that's why I'm waking up each day, is to make sure that our creditors can still be confident about our ability to pay, and of course to prepare ourselves if a severe shock happens, how we will manage it. We need to be ready for it, but we are doing everything to make sure that we can keep this trust.
You have actually, your principal amortizations of your Eurobonds are not coming due until 2025. So you have a bit of breathing space anyway on that side. We have seen in recent weeks sub-Saharan issuers coming back to Eurobond markets, to international capital markets. Ivory Coast has issued, we've just seen Benin come. Do you think between now and 2025, are you thinking about doing a liability management exercise maybe? Could we see you come to Eurobond markets again?
We have a medium-term debt strategy that often we actualize just to make sure that we are on track on the principles that we define to ourselves. And one of the principles that we define is to make sure that we get money on long term and as cheap as possible. And for now, as cheap as possible is not quite easy. So we will continue working to make sure that we can live in an environment where the risk premium of lending money to Angola is lower, and keep looking at the future to see if the scenario change, when and how we can step in again. But for now, we are looking for options where cheaper as possible and long-term, and even better than that, private investment.
Very good. Can I just flag to the audience that there will be an opportunity to ask the minister questions in the end, so please put them into your app. We'll have roughly another 10 minutes where I will ask you questions, and then we'll turn it over to the audience if there are any questions out there. I wanted to ask you as well about the economy, because Angola has experienced 5 straight years of recession now. The kwanza is under pressure. Inflation is at around 25%. And all of this has taken a big toll on your population. When do you expect the economy to return to growth?
It's a good question. We need to remind ourselves that we are coming from an inflation of 42% in 2017. So 42%, it's quite hard. And we were moving very smoothly but nicely to 1 digit till the pandemic and the drop on the oil price and all the consequences that we already know. So we want to keep our path regarding the reform agenda, regarding to make sure that we can rebuild or regain the space that we were getting on the monetary side. But we are also, as I mentioned, we are also working on a free float regime that helps to improve the competitiveness and also the business environment, and also all the legal framework to make sure that we can see the domestic production increasing, the local production increasing, and the growth coming. In 2021, this year, we are expecting a stagnation, 0% of growth, but we can have surprises. Hopefully, we will have surprises. But we are seeing this like a turning point where we are coming from a very difficult stage. We are putting our feet on the earth and preparing ourselves to fly. But for this, we need to keep working with discipline, focus, and to make sure that the economic stabilization and social inclusion still our priorities.
What measures are you taking? We have seen some protests on the streets. People are upset about the austerity measures and the toll they have taken. What measures are you taking to address that public pressure and that anger in the streets?
Yes, we are getting a lot of help from the multilateral entities such as World Bank, which whom we have a program, we call it kwanza. It's a social transfer program that we give money to the poor families to make sure that they can at least deal with this situation on the short term. And we have also other programs with that social flavor with the World Bank. But I understand that this is only short measures to minimize the problem. What we really need to do is grow. We need to grow, to create jobs, to give dignity to the people. People, yes, they say thank you to the money, but they don't want the money. They want to work. They want to have a salary. They want to have education and health conditions. That's a lot of expectations, and I truly understand the frustration, but I really believe that we are moving on the right way, and we will keep moving on that way to make sure that we satisfy those expectations with the first signs of all this ambitious reformist agenda being seen in the life of the population.
What you already mentioned the kwanza reform, and of course you still have capital account restrictions. When do you expect the reforms of the kwanza free float to be completed?
It's done. It's done. It's already free float. The central bank let it go, and with advantage, as I mentioned, the competitiveness. Now the kwanza has its real value. It's good for the local production, but with some disadvantage also that we need to manage. It's our decision, it's our policy, we need to manage. It's related to our stock, our debt stock, because we have part of it related in dollars. We have part of it linked to the exchange rate. So having a more weak kwanza make the stock higher. So we cannot have everything at the same time. We need to make choices, and we did it, and I think we did it right.
President Lourenco said in his State of the Nation address in October that the amount of money that's been stolen under the previous government was around about at least 24 billion US dollars, and that around about 5 billion of those your government has now managed to claw back. Can you elaborate on that? And how much more are you expecting realistically to be able to retrieve?
As you can imagine, those kind of processes are very complex because we need to deal with trials and international banks and international entities, and it's a lot of things to make sure that we follow the procedures to see the money coming back, and the legal attorney and the lawyers and the judges, everything are very committed to make sure that we recover as much as possible. But that's a lot of work. And somehow, sometimes it came with problems because that's not money, but that's companies that have problems of liquidity, of solvability, and we need to first restructure it before sell, and that's requires money. It's a nightmare. But we understand that is the only way to do it, because it's justice. It's a matter of justice, and we will keep doing it even when we are getting more passive than active. We will keep moving, doing not only to recover the assets and the money, but also to send a sign to the society that as a public manager, we should be responsible for our decisions. We should respect the money of the taxpayers, and we should love Angola before everything.
Is that money, when it comes in, going into your sovereign wealth fund, or will that go into the FX reserves of the central bank?
So through the central bank.
Through the central bank. And yeah, your FX reserves have been under quite a bit of pressure. Do you expect them to stabilize where they are currently now, or what's your outlook for your FX reserves?
That's a tricky question, because as I mentioned before, the oil sector is 30% of our GDP, 60% our fiscal revenues, 90% of our exports. So to give you an answer, I need to look at the price and production of oil, while we are not seeing more happening in other products and service that give us hard currency. So the main one is still oil. We are working to change that, but the key indicator still coming from the oil sector.
We've got a couple of questions now from the audience that I would like to put to you. The first one comes from Tara Kadzura. What do you see as the main benefits for Angola in the new African continental free trade area? And a second one that you already touched a little bit on is, how can we expect agriculture to develop if less than 2% of your budget is actually given to the sector? That's from Julio Cuvalela.
Thank you, Julio, for the question. I think that we have a wonderful opportunity to move even fast regarding the integration in our continent. We have a lot of potential regarding the consumption side. That's huge population. We have a lot of people in the most parts of the countries of the continent. So we have a big potential to find market to the products. So, and somehow I used to listen up. We should be afraid about the competitiveness of the neighbors. Mm-hmm. I don't understand like this. I understand that together we can do it better, and we can be stronger, and we can optimize our capabilities, and also learn with who is doing better than us to improve our own capabilities in other sectors, probably not the same, to make sure that we not put too much of something in the market, but other sectors where we have the potential and the other countries do not have. So the African countries need to talk more. We need to optimize the opportunities that we have, and for sure this new paradigm that is growing fast will help. Agriculture is our flag. We really believe that we can product what we are eating. We still having space of growing. We still having space to doing better regarding the processing of food. We are not doing bad regarding production, taking from the land, but we still have work to do regarding the processing industries and all juices. So yes, we have a big potential. We're still importing a lot. Importing a lot of chicken, rice, a lot. And we have potential to do it, as I mentioned, making the substitution of imports and improving the exports.
And just very briefly, because we have to leave it there shortly, a question, what are the main strategies the government is taking to solve inflation going forward?
Of course, the central bank, I cannot talk with the same property as the governor should talk, but I will do my best. The central bank is managing in the short term the pressure with measures, normal measures, open markets operations and this kind of instruments. But the main purpose is to make sure that we can take advantage of the free float regime, an exchange rate flexible, to optimize or develop the local production, and to have enough quantity of products to make sure that we are not seeing pressure coming from demand, because it's what is the main reason for the increase of the price of the products. It's also this, a lot of pressure on the products that people are needing, but the producers are not being able to satisfy these needs.
that's unfortunately all we have time for. Vera Davis, thank you so much for joining us here at Reuters Next. And thank you to our audience as well. And I hope you enjoy the sessions.
Thank you. Thank you.